Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, my dear students of honors part 4. How are you doing? Today I will discuss the audiolingual method, its key features and techniques, and also its strength and weakness. And first I will tell the introduction to audiolingual method. The audiolingual method is an oral based approach. The audiolingual method drills students in the use of grammatical sentence pattern. It has a strong theoretical base in linguistics and psychology. Charles Fries of the University of Michigan led the way in applying principles from structural linguistics in developing the method, and for this reason it has sometimes been referred to as the Michigan method. Later in its development, principles from behavioral psychology, here we can mention the name of Synner, 1957, were incorporated to this method. It was thought that the way to acquire the sentence patterns of the target language was through conditioning, helping learners to respond correctly to stimuli through shaping and reinforcement. Learners could overcome the habits of their native language and form the new habits required to be target language speakers. And my dear students, the instructor would present the correct model of a sentence and the students would have to repeat it. The teacher would then continue by presenting new words for the students to sample in the same structure. There is no explicit grammar instruction. Everything is simply memorized in form. The idea is for the students to practice the particular construct until they can use it spontaneously. In this manner, the lessons are built on static drills in which the students have little or no control on their own output. My dear students, let me cite an example. Suppose the teacher is saying post office and telling the class to repeat, and the class is telling post office, and then the teacher is saying to the post office and the class is repeating to the post office. Then the teacher is saying going to the post office, then the class is repeating going to the post office. Then the teacher is saying I am going to the post office, then the class is repeating I am going to the post office. Now my dear students, I will tell you the objectives of audiolingual method. The overall goal of the audiolingual method is to create communicative competence in learners. However, it is thought that the most effective way to do this is for students to overlearn the language being studied through extensive repetition and a variety of elaborate drills. The idea is to project the linguistic patterns of the language based on the studies of structural linguists into the minds of the learners in a way that makes responses automatic and habitual. To this end, it is held that the language habits of the first language would constantly interfere, and the only way to overcome the problem is to facilitate the learning of a new set of habits appropriately linguistically to the language being studied. Now, my dear students, let me tell you the key features of audiolingual method. The key features of the audiolingual methods are: number one, new material is presented in dialogue form. Number two, there is dependence on mimicry or imitation, memorization of set phrases, and over learning. 3. Structures are sequenced by means of contrastive analysis and taught one at a time. 4. Structural patterns are taught using repetitive drills 5. There is little or no grammatical explanation. Grammar is taught by inductive analogy rather than deductive explanation. 6. Vocabulary is strictly limited and learned in context. 7. There is much use of tapes, language labs, and visual aids. 8. Great importance is attached to pronunciation. 9. Very little use of the mother tongue by teachers is permitted. 10. Successful responses are immediately reinforced. 11. There is great effort to get students to produce error-free utterances. 12. There is a tendency to manipulate language and disregard content. My dear students, let me now tell you the techniques of audiolingual method. The techniques of audiolingual method are number 1, dialogue memorization. Students memorize an opening dialogue using mimicry and applied role playing. Number 2, backward build-up, which is also known as expansion drill. Teacher breaks a line into several parts. Students repeat each part starting at the end of the sentence and expanding backwards through the sentence, adding each part in sequence. Number 3, repetition of drill. Students repeat teacher's model as quickly and accurately as possible. Chain drill. Students ask and answer each other by one in a circular chain around the classroom. Single slot substitution drill. Teacher states a line from the dialogue, then use a word or a phrase as a cue that students, when repeating the line, must substitute into the sentence in the correct place. Number 6, multiple slot substitution drill, which is same as the single slot drill, except that there are multiple cues to be substituted into the line. Transformation drill, which is number 7. Teacher provides a sentence that must be turned into something else. For example, a question to be turned into a statement, an active sentence to be turned into negative statement, etc. 8. Question and answer drill. Students answer or ask questions very quickly. 9. Use of minimal pairs. Using contrastive analysis, teacher selects a pair of words that sound identical except for a single sound that typically poses difficulty for the learners. Students are to pronounce and differentiate the two words. 10. Complete the dialogue. Selected words are erased from a line in the dialogue and students find and insert. 11. Grammar games. Various games designed to practice a grammar point in context using lots of repetition. And now, my dear students, I will tell the strength and weakness of audiolingual method. The audiolingual method represents a major step in language teaching methodology that is aimed squarely at communicative competence. A teacher that can use the method well will generally be able to create what appear to be very productive students. The extensive and elaborate drills designed to facilitate overlearning and good language habit forming are an innovative addition to the techniques used to practice language, and many of them are featured and essential parts of communicative methods that are followed the audiolingual method. The audiolingual method falls far short of the overall goal of creating sustainable long-term communicative competence in language learners. The linguistic principles upon which the theory is based emphasizes surface forms of language and not the deep structure. The method does nothing to address the issue of errors and their analysis. The highly teacher-oriented classrooms are designed to produce language users whose proficiency stems from some kind of audio designed mentality. A factor that accounted for the method's popularity was the quick success it achieved in leading learners towards communicative competence. Through extensive mimicry, memorization, and overlearning of language patterns and forms, students and teachers were often able to see immediate results. Now, my dear students, let me conclude my discussion by saying that audiolingual method is still popular and perhaps even appropriate in certain educational contexts. The method was widely used in United States and other countries in 1950s and 1960s. It is still used in some programs today. The method was one of the first to have its roots firmly grounded in linguistic and psychological theory, which apparently added to its credibility and probably had some influence in the popularity it enjoyed over a long period of time. With these few words, my dear students, I would like to conclude my discussion for today. And my dear students, audiolingual method, as it is learned through practice and through continuous drills, and it is not a difficult method, and it helps us to earn communicative competence. And with these few words, I would like to conclude and finish my lecture for today. Thank you very much.